Hi honey pies. I'm in a talky mood today, I think. I've given my love once or twice in the past to people who treated me meanly, to people who were dismissive of me and who eventually came to betray me or treat me like I didn't matter. And those times are really painful in the human lifespan. They're really difficult times. They're times when you doubt yourself, when you feel disconnected from your intuition, and usually times when you're quite low on self-love, even if you are highly shocked and surprised by the nastiness and the dismissive attitude of the person into which you've invested your time and your love and your energy. Even if you're surprised by it, you eventually come to realise that it was because of a deficit of self-love within you, or because you weren't connected to your inner voice, that your inner voice was indeed trying to tell you something very significant, and because of needs which come largely from ego level, you refused to hear it, you didn't want to hear it, and you blocked it out. I think a lot of people who've been betrayed, a lot of people who've suffered somebody's infidelity, for example, have later gone on to say that they knew that something was awry, that they knew that something was wrong in the relationship, but they didn't want to admit it to themselves at the time. And when the time came for them to no longer be able to deny it, they did admit that yes, they had some feelings, that it wasn't right, or that potentially they were giving more than the other person. So it normally is about a sense of disconnection from your inner voice. And I think self-love has a lot to do with letting your intuition in, letting it flow, letting it guide you. It's difficult to do that because your intuition doesn't always tell you what you want to hear, and I think that's something that a lot of people who talk about the value of intuition tend to forget to put in there. You know, we talk about intuition like it's fluffy and angels and roses and flower beds, and actually sometimes it's really hard to listen to your inner voice. Your inner voice is crying out against something that's feeding your ego and feeding your physicality and your sentient self so much. It's hard to listen to it. And when you've been betrayed, when somebody has dismissed you or undervalued you or taken you for granted or betrayed you in some way, often there's a desire to berate yourself extremely for allowing that person into your space and for exposing yourself and being vulnerable to that person. A lot of the time you think about everything that you've learned and all of the wisdom that you've acquired through your life, and you wonder how you got yourself into such a god-awful pickle. And it becomes a case of berating yourself and attacking yourself, which is obviously counterproductive, and everybody can do without that. I recently posted something on Facebook which a lot of people agreed with and liked. It was some kind of meme that was to do with making sure that you don't ask yourself what was I thinking, but instead ask yourself what was I learning. And I think that's the big thing when you've been betrayed by somebody, when you've let somebody in that has been more destructive than creative for you in terms of what they've produced in your life and in terms of what you have to clear up and deal with after they leave the scene, after they exit stage left, as it were. You have to spend more time thinking about what you were learning from that experience and less time berating yourself, less time kicking yourself, less time thinking, Christ alive, I thought I was beyond that kind of thing, and there I was getting myself intimately involved with it and to my peril. I think that when you want to exude joy and abundance and love, and you're so full of life, and you feel like at some points in your life you feel like everybody is on the same level, it might look like naivety, but it's really a state of complete openness, and sometimes you miss a trick, and that's just the way it goes. Afterwards, the focus needs to be placed on healing. I was with a guy for a little while a few years ago, and he treated me very badly. It was a whirlwind thing, and it ended with me being incredibly hurt by him cheating on me. And I remember afterwards we had a conversation, and we were both kind of in the heat of this only just happening. And I said, look, the bottom line is you went abroad for a few days and you cheated on me, and now you've come back and told me that you no longer wish to be with me. That's the truth of it. And he turned round and he said to me, you think that there's only one truth. That's your problem. You think that there is only one truth and that's it. You don't realise that everybody has a truth, their personal truth. There is no one, truth which is 100% clear and pure and simple. And even in the midst of feeling so hurt by him and so disappointed by what he ended up becoming to me in my life, I realised that he was teaching me a lesson that I really needed to hear. I really needed to learn that lesson, that in fact we are just filtering shit through our own consciousness, and in my mind he made me all of these promises and then broke these promises, whereas in his mind he was just an adventurer on the high seas of life, and he found somebody that he much preferred and realised that what he had with me was fraudulent, or in some sense vapid. So we saw things through very different spectacles, and I think that was part of what I needed to learn. And I realised as well that really I'd betrayed myself. It had nothing to do with him. I was in a very vulnerable, fragile place, and I was going through a profound stage of healing at that time, and my focus should have been plainly and simply on me. I should have been the central spoke of my universe at that moment, but instead I was focusing on him and this unfolding love that was going on with him. So really it was my lesson to learn, and the relationship was a rod for my back for that reason, so that I could make sure I never went there again. And when I think about some of the friends who've passed through my life and didn't end up being right for me, or we didn't end up being mutually beneficial for each other, I think a lot of those same lessons are inherent in that, and they will be for you too. You will realise that what you needed to learn was worth the pain of what you went through, and sometimes that can be a very difficult cross to bear for a lot of people. But it is true, even with the worst betrayals, even with the most complex situations, even where you end up feeling completely alone and alienated and fucking disconnected and tired and bored of people's behaviour, there is this beautiful silver lining that comes out of it. There is a lot of fortitude to be taken from it, and it is an opportunity to completely transition, to shed a skin, and that's a gift if you take it that way. So more and more as I'm getting older, I'm realising that all of that annoying crap about everything being about perception is of course right on, it's perfectly true. And I think that as you get older, not in terms of years necessarily, but in terms of personal evolution, you have to make some very difficult decisions sometimes about where you place your energy and who you give your energy to and how involved you become in other people's situations. I think it's really difficult for people who are natural healers or natural givers or natural communicators, natural unifiers. It's difficult for people like that to accept that some people do not actually want your help, or in fact that they want your help but they only want it for the attention that it places onto them. They don't really want to do anything with the words that you're saying. They do not want to receive your wisdom so that they can use it and harness it and utilise it in order to grow. They don't want that from you. They want you to listen to them, and they want you to give them advice, and they want you to make them the centre of things for you for a time so that they can get that warm security, but they then do not want to take action to improve anything in their lives. And I think most of us, at least by the age of 20 anyway, most of us have met somebody that is quite like this, and it's difficult because you do see that they're in pain, but they're not in the kind of pain that they think they are. Their problem is different to what they think it is. They think that they want to be healed, but they're not proactive about their part in that. They instead want to take of your energy and then remain in the same place. Now, some people would call these people emotional vampires. I'm not fond of that term, and I never have been, and I don't plan on ever resorting to using it. But I can understand why it's a term that's flying around. It is something a bit like that, in a sense. I think you need to be wise about where you place your healing capacity. You need to be wise about the amount of exposure in your life, the amount of openness you're willing to give. I think it's important when you've been hurt, obviously, to heal wholly, however long that takes, because otherwise you're going to be consistently missing out on opportunities to enjoy collaboration and unification with people who are good for you and people who can really give you something and people who do resonate with you. If you don't heal completely from an emotional disaster, from a betrayal, you won't be able to have that openness in the future, and you deserve that. That is part of what you deserve. That should be part of the legacy of the pain that you've been through. Opening yourself up to the wrong person should be a direct lesson, a train station towards the destination of being able to open up to the right people and have those kinds of relationships where you feel that you're not compromising your individuality, you feel that you're strong in your core, you can enjoy somebody. That's how I like to put it. I like to say things like, I enjoy that person. I enjoy their company. I enjoy what they have to give. I enjoy their input, and I enjoy them enjoying mine. It's more about that equality, that balance. And I think if you don't heal from a major betrayal, from an entanglement with somebody that ended very badly, you're obviously going to shut yourself off from future experiences, and that's not supposed to be part of your journey. That's not what you were meant for. You were meant to feel connected. You were meant to feel comfortable with showing somebody something of you and enjoying that feeling, relishing that feeling, and knowing that you are safe to do that. So I think that there is a lot of questions that come around in your adult life with regard to how much you're prepared to give to people who won't give to themselves. I'm having that issue at the moment, on and off, where I recognise that my energy is being taken, but my words are not being listened to. They're not really being fully received. Some people they're not interested in healing in and of itself. They're interested in remaining in the same place, but bleating about it at the same time. And there's only so much you can do for those people, and don't break your back. Don't break your back for those people. Please don't, because, you know, at the very lowest point in your life, when you are on the kitchen floor and you're sobbing your heart out and you do not want to get up and you don't see the point, those times where you feel broken and you feel wretched and you have no real sense of where your axis mundi is, if it ever existed, those times where, you know, you feel homesick but for somewhere that you've never been, for an experience you've never had, it's a terrible feeling of lack. That feeling of lack is something that, even with the very best of people around you, even with everyone you love around you, helping you, supporting you, encouraging you, that feeling of lack and of nothingness and of desperation is a feeling that you need to get up from. It's only you that can do it. And that's why when you come through something like that and you're so eager to praise and give recognition to the people who helped you, those people will often say, you did it yourself. I was there for you, yes, I guided you, you know, I took you through your dark night of the soul, but you were the one that got up, and congratulate yourself for that. It was your work. And those people are right to say that. It was your work, and you need to recognise that and acknowledge that and give yourself credit for that, because it's a marvellous thing. I think that there are difficult decisions to make in life with regard to the people that you surround yourself with, and with regard to what extent you allow people to get a snapshot of who you are and of what's deeper, of what's behind that. And it's about balance a lot of the time. You know, what I'm realising, and it sounds kind of boring, but as I move closer towards 30, I'm realising that a lot of shit is about balance, in a sense. It's about balancing your resources. It's about making sure that you've got enough of that good life force running between the chalices. It's about making sure that you have enough for you and you have enough to give out. It's about making sure that you understand giving and taking and what that procedure looks like on an emotional level. So if you've been betrayed and you're going through that difficult process of healing, I urge you not to give up. I really do, because the fruits of your labour will be so moving. They really will move you to tears. There will come a point in the future when you will be able to once again take in the complete magnificence of a glorious sunset and feel strong in your axis mundi, the centre of your metaphysical universe, and everything will feel lush and right and abundant and good with the world again. And you'll realise that you've dragged yourself through some shit, and that you're strong having done that, and that you've really learned something that you can pass on to someone else. And for a long time it seems like a very patronising and empty thing to say to someone who's going through pain, particularly when it's to do with trust and the breaking of trust, which is so sore and so raw and so shitty. It can feel quite a vacuous thing to say, that, you know, this is a huge, huge gift to you. But it really is, you know, the journey that you go on to rebuild your sense of what it means to trust and to rebuild your ability to be open in the world is a massive, massive strengthening of the spirit and of the heart. And afterwards you're never the same again. You're never the same again, and I mean that in the best possible way. It is a super good feeling. Much love.